Alright, so today we are going to talk about negative numbers for second graders by Brittany Hall and Faith Eaton. What are negative numbers? So a negative number is a real number that is less than 0. When they are written, they have a negative sign in front of it to show that it is negative. So as you can see right over here on the right-hand corner at the top, we have a number line. On that number line, you can see a 0, and then to the right of it, you see a 1, a 2, and a 3. And then to the left of it is going to be our negative numbers, which is what we are focusing on today. And that's going to be -1, -2, -3, and so on. So when you're looking at those numbers, I want you to kind of focus and see that if I were to start at the 0 and I move over one spot, I'm going to be at number 1. And if I start at the 0 and I move over one spot to the left, I'm going to be at -1. So those numbers are technically opposites. And if I were to do the same thing, move over 2 spots and then move over 2 spots over here, those are both going to be 2 away from 0. Examples of negative numbers. Negative numbers are technically opposites of positive numbers, which we saw in the previous slide. On a number line, when going to the left of 0, the numbers look like they're getting bigger, but they are really getting smaller. So what this means is when you're looking at a number line and it looks like this, if you were to be moving over to the right, it looks like they are getting bigger. And if you were to be moving over to the left, it still looks like it's getting bigger. But in reality, actually, when you move over to the left from 0 and you start getting towards negative numbers like -1, -2, -3, you think that you're counting upwards to go up, but you are actually going backwards. So for here it says, what is 3 minus 6? So 3 minus 6, ignore that it says -3. Let's go say we wanted to solve this on our own. You start at 3 and you have to move over to the left since there's a negative sign, which is also a minus, but we're going to go that it's a negative sign. You're going to move over to the left 6 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So your answer would be -3. To subtract, you would move over to the left, and to add, you would move over to the right. So that's why when we're subtracting here, we're moving over to the left, because it's going to give us a negative answer. So for our examples continued. In Barrow, Alaska, it is -25 degrees, but in Stanley, Idaho, it is -35 degrees. So right over here we can see this is going to be in Barrow, Alaska, and it is -25 degrees. And in Stanley, Idaho, it is -35 degrees. Although 35 is usually bigger than 25, because the numbers are negative, -25 is actually bigger or greater than -35, meaning that -35 degrees is the smaller number. So as we discussed a little bit earlier, when we look at this picture right here, it does look as though -35 is below -25. So this just kind of makes it look like -25 is a little bit bigger because it's closer to the 0. So that's how I want you to look at it, is that when you see a number on a thermometer or on a number line, when it is farther away from the 0, that means when it's like below it, that means that it is actually smaller. So the -35 is going to be the smaller number here. And if it were on a number line, let's say that you were at -10, -10 is going to be smaller than -5 would be because it's farther away from the 0. And hopefully you guys don't have any questions. And if you do, just go ahead and just refer to our last slides. So next, we have a question for you guys. If Zach has $10 and he buys a shirt that is $20, how much does he have left? So let's reread it one more time just to make sure that everyone understands. If Zach has $10 and he buys a shirt that is $20, how much does he have left? So I know that this may be a little bit confusing just because negative numbers are a little bit hard to understand, but here we go. We'll go ahead and we'll go show our answer. All right, so for the answer, if Zach spent $20 when he only had $10, technically this would be able to be solved as $10 minus $20. So right here, we have 10 minus 20 would give us negative 10. So this is super important to remember because normally this doesn't look very right. This doesn't look easy to solve. But because it's a negative number, it's super important to remember that that minus sign is also going to go down here. It's going to make us have a negative. If the number on the top is smaller than the number on the bottom, that means that you're going to have a negative number. But if the number on the top is bigger than the number on the bottom, that means that you are going to be having a positive number. Hopefully that makes sense for everyone. So over here, this is a little bit different, just kind of a different way to understand it. But because Zach had spent more than he had, so he had $10 and he spent $20, that means that he is now negative $10 and he needs to get $10 more to make it $0 again. So if you have $10 and you spend $10, you then have $0. But if you have $10 and you spend $20, now not only do you have $0, but then you take away another 10. So that's why we have negative $10.
Today I'm going to be talking about what negative numbers are used for and what they look like on a number line. So what are negative numbers used for? Negative numbers can be used to keep track of money and temperature or weather. Negative numbers are not like regular positive numbers, but we still use them in our everyday lives. When we're referring to money with negative numbers, we're typically talking about how much you owe someone. So let's use an example. Say you want to go buy ice cream that costs 2 cents, but you don't have those 2 cents. You can go ask your parents or whoever is watching you to borrow 2 cents to go buy that ice cream. If you end up buying that ice cream, you no longer have 2 cents. You have negative 2 cents. You would have to find another way to get back those 2 cents to pay back whoever gave you the money. Now, when we're talking about temperature or weather, we're talking about how cold it is outside. Where we live, the coldest it could possibly get is usually 35 degrees. But even that is rare. In order to go somewhere where it is in the negative degrees, we would have to go somewhere where it snows. So let's say that you're standing outside in the snow and the temperature says negative 5 degrees. This would mean that it is negative 5 degrees cold or 5 degrees below freezing. Negative numbers on a number line. Negative numbers on a number line all go on the left side of 0. So let's say we are counting with regular numbers on a number line. 0 is typically on the left, and let's say we want to count to 3. We start with 0 on the left, go to the right one, which is 1, go another to the right one, which would be 2, go to the right again, which is 3. We put them on the left because they are smaller than 0. So, in order to count with negative numbers on a number line, we have to put the negative numbers on the left side because they're all smaller than 0. So in this case, we have negative numbers on the left because they are smaller than 0. Then we would have 0 in the middle, and we would have positive numbers on the right. So if we start with 0 in the middle and we want to count to -3, we would have to count left. So let's start at 0, go over the left one, which would be -1, go over the left another, which would be -2, and then go over the left again, which would be -3. -3 is 3 steps smaller than 0. The bigger you get with negative numbers, the smaller it is from 0. You have now learned what negative numbers are used for and what they look like on a number line.